what you know about purification to save the heart of a nation. Let burn a talking wood, bringing light to a talking wood. Natural law, just wisdom and love, vision truth below as a bird. Let burn a talking wood, let burn a talking wood.
Welcome to the Affirm Life Daily podcast. I'm your host, Cynthia Mitchell. As always, please visit the website, affirmlifedaily.com. Follow on social media at Affirm Life Daily. And I'm excited. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm really ready to get into this. I have a guest that's been on twice before, Coach Soul Expression. And we're going to be talking about a very powerful topic when it comes to life, humanity, natural law, all of it. We're going to be talking about doing the great work and acting in true care. So we're going to discuss what the great work is and how to develop and act in true care, because this is going to be the saving grace of humanity. This is the direction that we have to go. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Coach Soul, because I want him to kind of introduce himself and tell you a little bit about his book, which ties directly into what we're going to be talking about. Please, Soul. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me back.
Yes.
It's always a blessing, and it's always very exciting and very inspiring to be on this platform. I came across you via TikTok, I think it was. I was like, yo, do you follow Mark Cosimo?
You knew right away.
I knew right away because first of all, natural law, but secondly, how you were able to articulate the concepts and the truth behind what, people who are inspired by, Mark and Jordan Maxwell and just some of the greats in the space. Just a whole lot of greats. The way that you were able to articulate it, I was like, no, but, not only do you possibly follow, but you get it. You understand it. You out here doing the great work. So, of course, when you invited me back this time to talk about the great work itself, I was very eager to do so. And so I'm going to, before we get into the book, because that's built into the presentation itself, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, if that's cool.
Absolutely, sir.
And let's go ahead and get into it. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, sir, I can.
Boom. Then let's start it off. So we call this one True Care for the Great Work by yours truly. And true care, as distinguished from how many people take the word care, what they take the word care to mean, is care that is based in action versus just thought and feeling. It's care that is developed over time with effort and earnest discipline. It is care that comes from a very deep place post shadow work and post gathering your grammar and assimilating the understanding, the logic, and what's born is the care that you put in, the actions that you put in, and the rhetoric that you use. So, true care is really a notion, a concept, if you will, or a reality that, again, is based in action. It's obviously related to thoughts and feelings, but it's based in action, and it distinguishes itself from regular care by way of it's developed, and it drives you to show up on the hardest days that it is, that it is for you to show up. And then the great work. The great work, obviously, it may not be obvious to some of the listeners out there, but the great work is not ours, so to speak, because it comes from the occult, comes from the world of the occult. And at the highest levels, the great work, so far as I've been taught, was actually their globalist agenda, right? Converting everybody that's not in the club into mindless consumer, tax slave, this kind of status.
Transhumanism.
Yeah, under a one world control system where very few human beings are actually treated as sovereign and worthy of human life.
Yes.
And the rest are just made to be entertained and do a whole lot of meaningless tasks over and over for the benefit of those few. And so that's their great work. The dark occult orders of the world and these ultra rich families and whatnot that run this place, called Earth, not just America, but Earth, is what they considered the great work. And so people like Mark Passio flipped it on its head and said, our great work is not only stopping that from happening, but we also have our own completely separate and balancing great work of our own, which I will get into super heavily in this presentation. And so pay attention and see if you get what a useful definition for what we are doing as the great work. And now this right here is the cover of my book. And here are two links where you can find said book. It's called Culture Control: Why the Love of Money is Objectively the Root of All Evil. And is and all are in all caps because the love of money is what I say it is. And it's the root of all evil. Now, the second part, the root of all evil, that's debatable, of course. But it definitely is objectively the love of money, not money itself. I want to distinguish that as a disclaimer. I'm not saying that the existence of money or the existence of economic ideas and economic structures and order.
It's that religious worship of it. It's the religious worship.
But the untrue care that we put into money,
yes,
is the root of all evil. And that's because on a basic level, what the love of money is and has been for 200,000 years is the love of a freedom differential between classes of people. Those that have money, those that don't have money or only have a little bit, and those that make money and make the rules for money. Those that make it at the very, very top, those that have a lot of it are in the middle, and those that have almost none or none are at the bottom, which makes up most of the population of the world. And in my book, I don't only talk about money. I also talk about how culture has shaped us to behave and like shaped our behavior and behavioral patterns in such a way that, as we'll see in a second, we are made to serve our masters. I talk about my own journey, my personal life and journey, and coming to understanding and the two separate great awakenings that I had in my life. I talk about history, and I talk about the science of how religions are born and assimilated into the human psyche, and how propaganda, pushes various religions into our homes. And religion is not just regulated to faith systems. There's also the religions of fast food and the religions of public school, and there's a whole lot of religions that aren't called religions, but they're belief systems that people absolutely defend with religious fervor and religion
vigor. Of authority, celebrityism, all of those. And you also talked about that concentration of wealth and how we're strategically kept out, very strategically, which I really like how you really tie that together for people so they can understand the depths of this stranglehold they have on our economy and on money.
Yep. Yeah, I tried to illustrate that with a couple stories as well, fictional stories. One where it's like, property taxes and all of that, and the other between the artist and the banker.
Yeah. And those are real life stories. People lose, their, passed down like I think it was a farm in the book, and the family can't even keep it because they can't pay the taxes, even though it was, the parents already paid for it in full. They owned it, and it's terrible because these are real, life tragedies that are happening. It's not even a tragedy; it's a tragedy, but it's also just straight up theft that's happening every day.
Yes. And so you said that you recently finished Culture Control yourself.
Yes, I have it right here. I have all my yellow tabs of the different stuff that I, wanted to try to, bring up as we're talking and everything. But because you do talk about, true care and things like that. And you talk about one thing that I had highlighted here is that true care transcends personal passion. It's the force that propels those with common sense to defend against tyranny for more than their own needs. True care is often exemplified in helping others without expecting reciprocity, and also summoning the anger necessary to speak the brutal truth about government, money, and human nature to people who will listen. Boom! 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 Thank you. Drop the mic.
For me, so when I read, what was the last thing you said?
It comes up so much.
It does. And I tried to encompass like a whole lot into that quote in particular. Thank you for highlighting that. And I want to focus. So in my response, real quick off the top of the head, I want to focus on without expecting reciprocity. Right. For the listeners out there that might not know intricately what reciprocity is, the basic definition is getting back, equal effort for what you gave to somebody or what you gave to a group, getting your flowers before you die, basically getting some reciprocity, getting, not necessarily one-to-one. If I scratch your back, then you scratch mine, and that exact transactional exchange, but some form of like, proportionate effort is and thoughtfulness is given back to me for the effort and thoughtfulness that I give to you. That's reciprocity.
Yes.
And true care transcends and goes beyond the very natural, very completely okay need for reciprocity. It transcends it because true care isn't fueled by what the world is giving you. True care is fueled by your moral obligation to fulfill needs for the human family that you are a part of. So you are not serving someone else when you're putting true care into, various projects and missions that you put yourself on. You are serving yourself as a part of the human family, and as the human family when you do stuff out of true care. And so you can't be reciprocal to yourself. It doesn't work. The sun doesn't shine on itself, right? And so when you shine out of true care, and for those of you who've been following me and me and my wife's work for a while, SHINE is an acronym for share, honest, insightful, and nourishing expressions. And that can be actions that you take, or it could be messages that you put out, or it could be communication with, individuals. But when you shine, and it's coming from a place of true care, you're just shining. It just goes outward like the sun or any light. It just goes out. It doesn't come back on itself. It doesn't need to. The power comes from within and goes without.
Yes. And when you really start to develop true care and you understand the concept of the one, that we all are one, we are all source. You understand that when you are doing for others, you are also inherently doing for yourself, because we are all connected. We are all of one. So you don't look at everything as like, oh, well, what am I, like when I started the podcast, I didn't think like, well, what am I going to get out of it? Will I be able to monetize this? Well, I didn't think about it in those terms. I just thought, how can I give? How can I give to the most people that I can? How can I share this information as effectively as I can, because it's important and it just helps the human collective? That was my only thought process, not well, who's going to pay me back for this? Who's going to pay me back for my time and my energy and my effort?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
the work itself is payment.
Yeah, because there are certain missions that we have to complete, or at least 80% complete, before any reciprocity is even logically, and reasonably able to be expected, from our human family. There's work involving waking people up to what's really going on in the world, that they believe something that's so far from what's actually going on, and they're committed to things that are so far from the truth that you can't even expect reciprocity or payback, or to get your flowers, or for them to even understand how, at least in intention, how much you're helping. They wouldn't even understand the depth to the help that you're bringing to the world. So
Right.
We'll say also, most of the things that we talk about are going to be straight from this book. And, in this episode, I hope you do go ahead and buy it. I left this link up here for long enough, so let's go ahead and get to the next slide. And this right here sums up the crux of the issue. The issue that leads to and perpetuates our ignorance. It's by Jordan Maxwell, and it says, quote, "Nothing in this world operates the way you think it does. Banks do not loan money. Governments are not empowered to protect you. The police department is not there to serve you. Institutions of higher learning, colleges and educational institutes are not there to educate you. The entire superstructure of civilization in the Western world, and I would argue the whole world, is a combination of brilliantly put together and well-planned schemes to direct the minds of people in such a way as to serve their masters."
Yep. Sums it up perfectly, because that's exactly what is going on. And like you said, not just the Western world, the world, period.
Right. The world. At one point, you could kind of say the developed world, but now it's just the world.
Yes.
As more and more countries and regions and things throw up the same cities that we have here in the West and in Western Europe, and everybody starts looking the same and trying to do the same, and Facebook is popping up everywhere, and Starbucks is everywhere, McDonald's, all of these places, are just, it's like the same thing everywhere that you go.
Yes.
It's the whole world that's under the same group of spells.
Yep.
Literally.
The same word as under the same spell.
Yeah.
It is absolutely a spell.
And so what we have to understand is that nothing is as it seems. And I'm not preaching to you, but nothing is as it seems. It's the first thing it says, banks do not loan money. Well, what the hell do they do? Right?
Right.
And of course, that's a very long answer that will have to be served for another podcast episode. But education is not there to educate you. And all of my people that are in like STEM or civil law or stuff like that, they're going to be like, well, it does educate me. Yeah, but that's not the point. It doesn't educate you as a whole human being. It gives you some pieces. Yeah, it gives you some pieces of a puzzle that will keep you occupied with things that don't actually help the human family, not one iota, get out of the hole that we're in as far as our immoral behaviors and tendencies and sickness. This great sickness that keeps getting worse and worse and more millions every year.
Yes.
Affected by it. It doesn't help one iota, your college degrees and whatnot. But that doesn't mean everybody, of course, that pursues college, or everybody that goes into banking, or everybody that goes into even police. I dare say everybody that goes into the police and military and whatnot is intentionally doing harm to the human
No,
family. It just means you don't know what the hell is going on.
Exactly. That's the whole part of the spell.
Yeah.
You actually think, a lot of people think that they're doing a noble thing. They think they're doing a good thing because we are not educated holistically. We're not educated on morality, integrity, anything to do with spirituality. So yeah, you're just, you're going along with things because you lack the education or the broader picture or the broader perspective.
Yeah. Like we're made to go very deep and have ultra diverse, perspectives and conversations in a very narrow hallway.
Exactly.
That's kind of the way that they got us, is they make it really deep so that we think we got all of this information, but the hallway is so skinny, or the threshold is so skinny, we don't get nowhere near the bigger picture. And then when somebody who has a larger pool, to pull from, but they, let's say, don't have all of the super duper tiny expertise within the narrow walls, they sound crazy.
Right.
Hopefully that metaphor isn't too far gone.
No,
But
exactly what you're saying.
So boom, nothing is as it seems. There are a great many things that you currently believe to be true that are untrue. Our childhood was filled with happy distractions. Our adulthood is filled with unhappy distractions, and our institutions are responsible for the most widespread ignorance the world has ever seen. And ignorance is spelled ignorance like that because there's a difference between not knowing something due to the information being unavailable or non-existent, or so far, removed from your culture that you reasonably wouldn't ever run into it. So not knowing something because of that, the information's not there, and not knowing something because you're choosing to be afraid of it, to be, rigidly super duper skeptical of it, or to be dismissive of it. And that is ignorance. That's when you are ignoring important information for selfish reasons. And ignorance is the key to the success of the oppressor.
Yes. And they let people have just enough that they feel like, well, I'm doing okay. So, you know what I mean? I'm not going to challenge the system or question the system too much because I'm doing all right. But they don't realize you're just doing all right now. They're not they're not going to leave you like that. You're in the same boat as everyone else. So, you better think long term and think about your kids and think about your grandkids when you're ignoring the tragedies and the cruelty and the genocides and everything that's going on around you.
Yeah. It's like people that have a little bit of information regarding certain conspiracies, right? Oh yeah, the CIA or some of these people, some of these organizations or whatever, they may put up dictatorships over there, and those dictators starved thousands or millions of people, but they wouldn't do that here.
Here, right.
No, they would.
Exactly.
They would definitely do that.
Yep.
But, my good people and my friend Cynthia, we cannot destroy these systems yet. We cannot do it. Physically, we could, but we cannot do it. It would not be a good idea to completely destroy these systems yet. And I'll just come straight out and say it. And as Mark Passio often says, get as offended as you like. It's because of you. It's because of me. It's because we have, by our actions, not just our thoughts and our intentions, but by our actions and actualized, manifested behaviors as a human family, have irreversibly put ourselves so deep in the hole that we have to start to come out of the hole individually and with our individual families first, before we can all come together in a way that has lasting results, in lasting positive results. If we destroy the systems that are oppressing billions of people all at once, we will rebuild similar yet slightly different on the outside systems and continue as if nothing has changed. Why? Because internally, even though externally everything changed, everything blew up and was burned to the ground and we built anew, internally nothing changed. And so we cannot destroy these systems yet, not by our own hand. We can't just come together as a freedom community and burn everything to the ground for the sake of the people, because the people are not changed internally yet.
Yes, because everybody, you know, talks about revolution. I said, if you want to talk about revolution, it starts in here. If you don't have a revolution of your heart, mind, and spirit, there is no external revolution to have if you don't have that one first.
100%. I say for some of the issues, the only solution is to spread the truth about systems of mind control and slavery while participating in them until enough people are willing to collectively stop. Addressing ignorance is paramount. We must reach a critical mass of informed individuals ready to take bold and unified action before we can actually destroy these systems. And a critical mass does not mean 3% of the world's population knows what's really going on. Now, 3% of several billion people, that's a lot of fucking people, right? You won't fit 3% of the world's population in a single room, right? You'll need an extremely large room to do that. A shopping mall worth of a room, maybe more. But regardless, 3% of the world's population, that's against 97% of order followers and obedient, let's just say, the sleeping masses.
Yes.
Right? So even though 3% of, let's say, 8 billion is a crazy high number of people, it's nowhere near what's needed for the vibration of the human family to be uplifted enough and in tune or aligned with the truth enough for, if the systems are destroyed, there to be lasting positive change. Positive meaning toward the goal of more peace, more freedom, less disease, all of that we say that we want.
Yes.
And so here's where I want to talk about the spiritual core of care, which I deem is courage. And people in the freedom community agree with this notion that the spiritual core of true care, action taking, where you're not just doing it in expectation of reciprocity and payoff, is courage. A deficiency in courage limits the array of choices that we have, which lead to our collective freedom, right? The choices that we have are diminished and lowered and lessened when we don't have courage. Significantly, because when we don't have courage, we are not even looking like internally. We're not looking outward saying, how can I make it work? How can I get through this barrier? How can I get over this obstacle? How can I do it anyway, even though I failed 3 times or even though it seems insurmountable, right? Because without courage, that doesn't even cross your mind.
Yep. No, it doesn't.
So without courage, the choices that we even have to go about solving things, to go about talking about solutions and implementing solutions is diminished, very, very limited space for solutions. And without courage, we cannot cultivate the most powerful emotion, which is care. Our self-inflicted harm as a human family, not just individuals, our self-inflicted harm stems from our own lack of care, often surpassing the harm inflicted by police, military, banks, or the medical pharmaceutical industries, right? We willingly neglect each other in the same way we neglect to read about the results of social experiments, the formation of laws, and I mean man's laws, the illusion of money, taxes, rulership, citizenship, and the occult symbolism that influences our behaviors. Just like we neglect to look into these things in any kind of deep way, which would completely transform how we see the world around us and make us smarter as a human family. The same way we neglect to do that work, because it is a lot of reading and understanding and unlearning that comes with that. Just like we neglect that responsibility that we have, we neglect each other. We neglect our situation and circumstance. We justify our ignorance of each other's suffering. And this is what we do. So we must confront the reality that we actively participate through our non-action and improper responses in our own demise as a human family.
And that's self-neglect.
Ultimately, yeah.
It's the ultimate neglect of self and non-care for self.
Wake up. Wake your ass up. The greatest tool used against us is our own disconnection from our true selves. Now, if I was in a room full of people, I would say, raise your hand if you've ever heard the phrase your true self. And then I would say, raise your hand if you have a deep understanding of what that is. And I would expect, I don't know for sure, and I definitely am not assuming anything about your audience, but I would expect most hands would go down. Because what our true self, what the core of beingness is, has zero to do with our individual life and individual experience on Earth, except for, whatever purpose our limited time spent on Earth is helping serve in a bigger picture. The core of that beingness is so far beyond and so much bigger than our choices here that we wouldn't even begin to, we don't have a reference point without being taught and unlearning the assumptions that we have and unlearning things that are locked pretty deeply in our subconscious mind about who we think we are, before we could even start to understand the true self. And it is this disconnection from our true self that is the anchor point for the power held over us by our oppressors. It's not really, like, it is on the surface, but deep down, it's not about political corruption. It's not about greedy bankers, and it's not about religious deception. Okay, regardless if it's religious deception via faith systems or religious deception via propaganda. It's not really about that. That's just the surface. What it's really about is the programming that keeps us from remembering who we are before the systems told us who we are.
Oh, amen to that. Yes, that is the exact problem. It all starts here. That's what and it's very hard to get people to wrap they're like, no, but it's them. It's the elites. It's the government. It all starts here. We wouldn't even be participating in any of this if it didn't start here.
That's the key. Cynthia just gave y'all a key, one of the golden keys. Okay? I'll put it this way for the people. Go away, my mom. I'll put it this way for the people. Without mass obedience, there is no such thing as slavery.
Gone. No such
thing.
thing.
Without mass obedience, without majority obedience, there is absolutely no such thing as slavery. Like I said, it's because of you. Get as offended as you like. Care equals actions, not just thoughts and feelings. Now, obviously, you need thought to take action. So I'm not disconnecting thoughts and feelings from action. I'm making a point. Care is actualized, and your soul, your being is attuned and aligned with truth through your actions and behavioral patterns, not through just your thoughts and feelings. Meaning, if your intention is to do good, but your laziness is more important to you than your intention to do good, then you won't do good. It's impossible. So,
yes. I had a big debate with a family member about this. recently, and I
What
was
they
just,
can I ask what they said?
I forgot what the post was about, but I was like, yeah, it's really sad. I was like, people just, they don't care. And she's like, oh no, I think they care. They just, they just don't know what to do, or she's making all these excuses. I said, if they cared, they would be taking some actions, making some changes, at least minor ones in their lives. Making a comment on this post saying I care for virtue signaling to look like you're woke is not the same as actually caring. If you are making no change in your life at all about how you live on a day-to-day basis, and you don't ever challenge anyone on what they're doing or what you're saying, or you never want to speak the truth because you don't want to be an outcast or a conspiracy theorist or whatever they want to call you, you don't really care. No, you don't. You just say that you care. And that's okay. I'm not judging you for that, but you're not going to tell me that you really care.
Right, but we're gonna name what level you're on.
Okay, let's do it.
In your care. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not going to judge you for being on that level, but
right.
We're going to call a spade a spade. You don't really care. Right? You think about caring.
Right. You're thinking about caring, which is a first step. That's good. But you
completely
can't.
Good.
It's
right?
completely
It's not a bad thing to think about caring, but you don't really actualize and materialize your care until you do action, and really until you do action when nobody's going to give you recognition for it, or you don't know if they will or not, and you don't feel like it. There was it might have been on your podcast. There was something I was listening to, and I may have participated in it. And I brought up this quote that I had recently heard right beforehand, which says, "Inconvenience is how we show love." Because, hey, can you take me to the store? I don't got the car no more. It's in the shop. And then you take them to the store. It's inconvenient, right? Hey, can you please watch a kid?
About the community building podcast. That's how we build community, is through that inconvenience.
That's how you do it. Everything can't be easy for you when the world is in shambles and you're talking about you care.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So true care most important quote from the whole book, in my opinion. True care cannot exist in a society where comfort is valued more than truth. It cannot. I don't say
true.
Might not. I don't say it's really hard for true care to exist. No, it is spiritually and essentially impossible for true care, meaning true care about our goals as a human family for more freedom, more peace, more harmony, things like that. True care for those things to exist in a society where comfort is valued more than truth. Okay, comfort is passive, and so is outrage when outrage is not followed by action. Comfort and outrage are just two sides, two extremes on the same line. And neither one of them is action. Right? When you're outraged and you're yelling at your social media screen, your phone on social media, you're not taking action, even if you make a post. You know what I'm saying? But care, I just want to move on. I said, but then I decided to just move on. That's why that happened. Care is not a thought. It's not a feeling. Care is demonstrated only in what we are willing to sacrifice for moral clarity.
Yes.
Sacrificing time, sacrificing comfort, sacrificing outrage.
Sometimes we even sacrifice our physical safety. Nowadays, speaking out against, certain things can get you
right.
The whole trouble, locked up and
time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, free everybody, of course, is the real thing, but free Palestine, right?
Exactly.
It is crazy over there.
Yeah, my daughter was just telling me about one of her friends that made a donation to go to, or like a rally for that cause.
Mm-hmm.
Her bank called her to question her about the donation. That's how deep it is.
Yeah, get out of here, bank.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. So yeah, it can cost you a lot to care, but we have to. The cost not to is so much greater.
Yeah. So as we ponder and as we enjoy this heartfelt, deep conversation. By the way, I'm having a great time. I hope you're having a great time.
Yes, absolutely.
As we ponder what our current circumstance actually really is behind the surface as a human family, my question is, what has our attention? What has our care? Because if we don't pay attention to what actually gets our time and our efforts, right? You could say energy, but I really want to say effort because I want to focus in for this presentation on the actions that we take. If we're not paying attention and we're just letting all of our time pass through our subconscious mind and get stored in our subconscious memory, and we only spend 1% of the day in a conscious attention to something and not sacrificing comfort, or again, like I said, not sacrificing outrage and the feelings of it's just not fair and why couldn't it just be an easy world that I was born into, and all of these things that are legitimate grievances in the human family. Sacrificing these feelings and showing up and doing your best and being creative and being logical to help solve some of these issues and do the shadow work to understand yourself so that you can understand the world, so that you can distribute a message that's actually helpful and useful and engage in projects that are actually helpful and useful, even if they don't pay a lot, down the line. What actually has our attention when we're not doing those things? What actually has our care, our efforts, when we're not doing those things? We have religion, a big, huge problem that a lot of people have when you acknowledge this truth is that their moral compass comes from religion, which I personally don't have many qualms about if your moral compass isn't, let's say, only in dogma, but is a intuitive, do no harm, yet take no shit, place that you land on, and you use the Bible or you use the Torah or you use the Quran or you use the Vedas or you use the, whatever to come to that where you're saying, less of me and more of God, and also like, don't tread on me. And you kind of land there. I don't care if you use religion to do that, but our problem is dogma, blind belief, and people, sociopathic people, psychopathic people who are on earth, who think they are God, who think they are the creator of the universe, who think they speak for God, and millions and billions of people who believe that they are and who believe that they do speak for God. And that creates, it creates a situation where a lot of our attention and a lot of our efforts go to the institutions of and the dogma of religion, and not the works of the figures that did good in religious texts and religious stories.
Yeah.
We're not actually following Christ. We're not actually following the examples of the saints and whatnot. We are following each other down into the dirt. and that's not good.
Yeah, and it's also often used as justification for some of the worst crimes against humanity, like what's happening to the Palestinians right now. That's for religious reasons, and it's the sickest thing you can imagine to use religion, something that's supposed to be holy and sacred and about love, to commit a genocide. It's like the sickest, most twisted thing you can imagine.
And there's a bunch of genocides going on worldwide right now.
Oh yeah, worldwide.
A bunch of genocides all happening right now.
Right now.
And it's ridiculous. And yeah, a lot of them are in the name of God.
Yes.
Which is sad. Another thing that has our attention, science and technology, but not really science and not really technology. Right? But instead, dogma around science and dogma around technology. They tell us what people are ready for. They tell us what healing actually is. They tell us what fighting disease and fighting illnesses actually is. They tell us, they tell us what to think, not how to think and not how to solve problems. They tell us what to think, and then they give us these dogmas, these doctrines, but they're really dogmas, these religious dogmas, so that we become adherents to the religion of scientism.
Yes.
Which is rigid skepticism for anything that's not coming from an authoritative voice with a lab coat on. And it's literally causing bodily harm to millions and billions of people every single day.
Bodily
let
harm,
alone the abortion industry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they've disconnected science from spirituality, from nature. It's not holistic at all. So it's not true. It can never be true science if it's not connected to spirituality and nature. You're missing more than half the picture. You know what I mean? So yeah. It's like, it's almost laughable.
And at the end of the day,
without that.
Right. And at the end of the day, science is a method of discovery. It's not, lab coats and tubes. It's a method of discovery, a scientific method, right? It's a method of discovering what's already true.
Yes.
What's already how the world works and how the world works on a large scale and how the world works on a micro scale. That's what science is. It's a method of discovery. It's not a body of work by authorities and experts, so-called experts.
Right.
And I'm not saying there's no such thing as expertise. Of course not, right? Learn the thing before you teach it. That's beside the point. I'm saying for those that maybe don't understand, I'm saying we've become dogmatic in the worship of so-called experts and have dismissed our own responsibility for not just taking in what to think dogmas, and instead paying attention to how to think and how to solve problems and be your own scientist. Although you don't have to be a master of every science to be awake. You just have to not buy into dogma. That's the point. And we are again, if 3% of the world population understands this, that's not enough. If 97%, if 95% of the human population is just completely like, well, what did the experts say? Well, what's the accepted narrative? Then that's scientism.
Yeah.
Another thing that has, that has our attention, right? I mean, they shut the world down for a disease that, first of all, was man-made, but secondly, didn't do anything to children. And yet they made the whole narrative like your children are at risk, and you're going to put your children at risk if you don't roll up your sleeve and get this jab. And they shut the world down. They shut the whole world down. You couldn't go to church, okay, in Eastern Europe. Like, you couldn't go see your grandma in hospital and hospice.
Yeah.
for something that was harmless to a lot of people, and was harmful to some, but was man-made anyway. I'm not going to go into that. I'm just saying that's how dogmatic we've become. Another thing that we just believe the dogma of, and we think that it's a good thing, is the New Age movement and the New Age kind of spirituality talk that is given by people by way of guruism. So we got religion, we got scientism, we got guruism. And the guruism is about being rigidly skeptical about anything that is established. Anything at all that has precedent, anything at all that has a linear, sort of growth to it and maybe some dogma to it. Nope, you're supposed to actually just be completely intuitive and completely even passive to a fault.
Yeah, you're supposed to ignore anything that disturbs your peace and anything that's negative. Well, you're just feeding that if you acknowledge it.
There we go. That's what I'm trying to do.
A lot of problems by ignoring them all. It's ridiculous on its face.
It is, and the words are very convincing, but the action, the care that we give it, we only give to certain practices within it. So we don't actually go out and do the work that would be linear progression from learning the principles in a lot of the New Age movement stuff, which are relatively good and aligned principles with truth, but they're often given from such a high up perspective that you can't actually be grounded in them, right? Because to be very grounded in I am not my body, I am not my mind, you have to actually be free of vice, free of need for entertainment, and free of certain things that it's not the reality for most people that's claimed to be practicing these things.
Right. And the whole human experience is built on us embracing our humanity, not just our divinity, but also our humanity. You can't just ignore your humanity or label your humanity as bad.
Right. You can't just go with the right brain only, which is the point. And so, and if you don't know anything about left brain, right brain, hemispheric science, the left brain is associated with logical thought and like linear progression, calculation, things like that. And the right brain is associated with creativity, chaotic, not meaning bad, but meaning not organized, intuitive capacities. And so the balance between those two is where, you get alignment and self-actualization. But you can't just go with the creative and intuitive side only and ignore the logic side because, you don't get order from that. You don't get freedom from that. And then politics has, another set of dogmatic beliefs. And this is, politics, a picture representing politics in United States, but it's the world. Everybody's politics. Okay, when you graduate from religion and scientism and you graduate from the New Age movement, you go right into politics. You grow up and your mama drags you to church every Sunday for a while, and then you're like, no, I want the New Age movement. And then you get a little older and you start studying science and you get dumped right into politics. And that's kind of how it works. And it, again, same story. There's these systems that exist that could exist in a benevolent and harmonic nature, but they don't because of the state of the human family and our lack of moral clarity and true care for morality, objective morality, that is. And so we have these political systems where these so-called elected officials use a pen and paper to make everybody adherents to the religion of moral relativity. What's moral over here is immoral over there. What's moral at this time is immoral at this time. What's moral for these people that have this status is immoral for these other people that have this status. Moral relativity. And it's completely false. It turns truth on its head and leads to very bad behavioral patterns. But most of all, what has our attention and what has our care beyond, or not beyond, but more than religion, more than politics, more than scientism, and even more than the New Age movement is money.
That money.
Above all the religions is the religion of money. In the chaotic dance of modern society, money reigns supreme as the god pulling the invisible strings beyond every significant decision we make, individually and in groups. Worshipped in the open by everyone. Imagine waking up one day to find all forms of currency have vanished. Imagine that. You wake up one day and every form of currency just vanished. The food would still be there. The tools, hammers, nails, the tools that we use, computers, everything would still be there. The buildings, the roads, the gas stations, the gardens, and all else would still stand. But all forms of currency have suddenly been magically wanded out of existence. First of all, Cynthia, when you reach this part of the book, where did your mind take you?
It took me a lot to thinking about, the collectively sustainable movement that I'm in, because we talk about this so much, this exact concept, because it's like people, we've been so brainwashed to feel like the money is what's creating the things. We're creating the things. We have the ideas. We build, we create, we plan, yep. We come together, we grow the food. We are doing these things, not the money. And yep. So it's just, we have to break this spell that the money has over us, this concept of money, which is not even a real thing. It has no inherent value of its own. You can't eat money if you get hungry. You can't build a shelter with money if your house gets knocked down by a tornado. It has no inherent value of its own, only that value we assign it. So instead of assigning all the value to money, why not assign the value to the actual things that we value?
How would life change if everything currency-wise was magically wanded out of existence? Yeah, when I wrote it, thank you for that. When I wrote it, I was thinking about the amount of shock and awe that people would be in as they sort of realized that it would be possible to not only, go out, but also go to work and enjoy work without money being a part of any of it. To go do projects like feeding people and cooking good meals with, safety regulations in place and good food handling knowledge, being learned before you're allowed on the floor, and, doing performances, doing projects, whatever, going and doing work that takes work and is hard to do well, and doing it well without any sort of transaction of this medium that we assign value to. Like how shocked people might be,
right,
in those first few months of the realization that it is possible. Now, of course, many jobs would just fall off the cliff. But just in general, there would still be a need to feed people. There would still be people that love to cook and love to cook with good cooking equipment and love to do construction and build big ass buildings with a large team of people. And there would still be people that want to do work, right?
Right.
There would still be really good caretakers that want to take care of large amounts of people. There would still be really good teachers that understand information. The books would still be there. The methods of discovery would still be as advanced as they are right now. The only thing magically wanded out of existence is all forms of currency.
Right.
And let's, you know,
capacity to develop that true care, because money is not in that picture. So you're going to start to want to do things out of that care, just out of true care, not like you said, out of reciprocity or looking for a reward or looking for anything. It's just out of care.
And that's the point. So this thought experiment, when fully explored, reveals just how deeply money has ingrained itself into our collective psyche. Despite this, the average person would never admit to worshiping money as a god. Right? You know, not in a serious conversation. They wouldn't say, yeah, I worship money as my god. But they probably do. You know, and they probably don't even realize it because, you know, first of all, they probably don't have a lot. And secondly, they don't understand what worship is and what true care is, which is in their action. And all of their decision making, first they check in with, is this going to make me money? Or is this going to ultimately make me money or make me worth money? Even if it doesn't lead to money immediately, is this going to make me worth more money? Is all of the decision making subconsciously, sometimes not even in conscious thought. You don't visit those thoughts on purpose. They come split second, they're gone. You don't even notice them. But it's a key cornerstone for almost all of our decisions.
Yep. And it's so normalized. So people, you know, if everyone thinks like that, it's so normalized. They just can't imagine that there's something wrong with thinking like that because everyone does.
Yeah. They interpret their relationship with the system as one of merely using it. Money is just a tool, right? It's just a tool. It's just a tool. What is it? Chapter 5. Money is just a tool, right? In my book, I believe so. Let me see. Oh, chapter.
No, it's 6.
6. Chapter 6. But money is just a tool, right?
Yep.
Wrote a whole chapter on it because that concept, that idea, that long echoed idea about money and it just being a tool is completely wrong. Or at least it could be a tool. It could be just a tool.
Yeah.
But it's not that way in the human family.
Yeah, there's a quote from that chapter. Unmasking hidden assumptions. Let us challenge the echoed notion that monetary incentives are the sole motivators for cooperation. We have to start challenging that all the time. We have to start challenging that. That does not have to be the only motivation to do something, to cooperate, to create, to build together.
Look at the screen. That is so amazing that you highlighted.
That is the synchronicities, man.
Yeah.
That was one that I had highlighted that I wanted to bring up during our conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, that was unplanned, everybody.
Yeah, totally unplanned.
Let us challenge the long echoed notion that monetary incentives are the sole motivators for cooperation. Why do we build a road? And I'm not saying why do we have one. I'm saying why do we build one? Right? Why do we do all of the steps, all of the thousands and thousands of steps to build roads? All of the millions of roads that we have. Why do we do all of those thousands of steps every single day, all the time? Why do we build roads? To have them, because they provide value. They provide a means for, safe, smooth, predictable, and measured transportation of people and goods all around the world, all around the country, all around the city, all around the town. Right? They provide some order to that. Of course, we could be better with how we treat road signs sometimes, or how safe we drive. But regardless, we build the road because it adds value. We don't build the road because we get money for it. We have been conditioned to believe the reason that we build the road is to get the money for a hard day's work.
Yeah.
But my challenge, my argument to that is, if I could make humanity, magic wand again, if I could magic wand humanity to start over from a certain point in scientific understanding and magic wand money and all thoughts about money systems completely out of the human thought process, we would still have roads probably a lot better than what we have now. Fast forward to 2025, when this is being recorded, when this conversation is happening, we would still have roads. In my, sort of prediction in this fictional scenario, we would still end up building roads because they have intrinsic value. We would still have beautiful buildings and some big homes and a lot of small homes. We would still have vehicles of some kind that travel on said roads. We would still have grocery stores of some kind that exist in places where people live. Right? Even though you take away money, then you take away, most likely you don't have laws against growing your own food in your front yard and growing, planting trees along in the city limits that bear fruit and stuff like that. You probably won't have those laws being, written by our so-called elected officials in Congress. We probably won't have those laws, but we would have roads. We would most likely have stores. We would most likely have these things that actually contribute to our ability to live well and live well with each other. And so the key to understanding true care and true care for the great work is unlearning these things that we've been taught. We build the road to get money. We build the road to have a good job. Or we learn how to build a road so that we can have a good job. No, we learn how to build a road so that we can have a goddamn road.
Right. Yep.
Okay, so I say that authentic collaboration emanates from inherent human creativity. We are born with our capacity for creativity, infinite creativity.
Yep.
And shared commitment to the evolution of humanity, the goodness of God, and the protection of a family's love. That's what I say authentic collaboration actually comes from, not from, money you get from a hard day's work. The relationship between our spontaneous ideas and our environment emphasizes the value of meaningful action and potential above the illusory matrix of currency currently blinding us from reality. Again, the relationship between our ideas that arise spontaneously and our environment, that relationship between those two things, our ideas and our environment, emphasizes the value of meaningful action and potential over the matrix of currency, which blinds us from reality. So, how do we foster true care? And I really love this image. By the way, almost all of these images come from AI. I did not draw them. I did not hire somebody to draw them. AI stole the idea from somebody who drew them and made it its own. But I really love this picture because what is at the heart of this picture, outside of the heart, is the family. Family first. Okay, family first is a timeless model and motto aligned with universal principles and is the cornerstone approach to the great work.
Yeah.
Cynthia, what do you think about that?
No, yes, I talk about this a lot. Family and community. That's you can only build a strong community with strong families. So it starts first with the individual, then the individual creates a strong family, the strong family creates a strong community. And that's how we build. That's how we build.
By the way, my wife says she's not seeing the slides clearly. Is there anything blurry or anything?
I can see it.
Okay.
Can anybody else chime in? Okay.
Okay. It might just be like a Wi-Fi thing.
Okay.
Just checking. Thank you, by the way. Yeah, just got the confirmation. It was just me. I see it from my laptop.
Okay.
All right, there we go. Anyway, so so on the idea of fostering true care, what true care really is. Family first is the way to approach true care in regard to the great work. We need to rebuild the heart of the world, and that heart is the family. It doesn't only mean having children. Of course, that does add a layer that you can't even begin to understand until you actually do have children. It adds a layer of practical reference point, you could say, where you just understand things a little bit differently. But even your cousins and your own parents for a certain amount of time on Earth, and siblings, if you have any, your family unit, your wife, husband, whatever, your family unit is the heart of the human family in the world. And through learning how to synchronize the beating of that heart with the vibration of the universe, and tapping into your natural abilities, like I said, your inherent God-given creativity, your ability to think logically, your ability to generate emotion that can propel you forward in the projects you want to engage in that have meaning in our missions in life.
Yeah.
That comes from the family unit.
Yes.
Okay, which is why the dark occult and those that I've been calling oppressors this whole presentation, the main target that
it's
they
always
have
the family.
Is the family.
Destroying the family. Pitting men and women against each other, divide and conquer, so that there's no family units anymore.
Can you read this next bullet point for me?
Sure. Say, because I care, I act. Because I love, I resist. And because my family comes first, I will never again make peace with systems that demand their obedience.
So if I was in a room full of people, I would have everybody read that, at the same time. But I'm only here with you, so there you go. But that's what it's all about.
Yes.
Right there. Because I care, I act. Because I love, I resist. And because my family comes first, I will never again make peace with systems that demand their obedience. It's not just about me and my comforts. It's not just about me and my family's comforts either, because we are also a part of the human family. So those of us that have money and those of us that have this artificial means of access to, vacations and entertainment and these things, it's not just about you and your family unit's comfort, because then you're disconnecting your family from the human family, which means you're not acting as the heart of the world.
Yep.
Right. But in being connected, you do realize the suffering that the unneeded, preventable, completely preventable suffering that's going on in the world. And you do care about it, meaning you and your family unit learn how to properly act so that stops or that becomes less by your presence.
Yeah.
And that has to deal with disconnecting from apathy. So first thing that we have to do is understand the unchanging presence of natural law and disconnect from apathy. Okay, apathy is you don't feel like doing it and you're kind of numb to everything and everything is just so overwhelming you can't take action. or you don't. You were just really like you don't feel like taking action. Like I could, but it's going to be meaningless. I could, but who's going to notice? I could, but who's going to care? I could, but right. That's apathy. So acknowledge apathy as a survival reflex, not an identity. Scientifically speaking, apathy often emerges when your mental image of the future, okay, becomes too painful. When we feel powerless to change what we see or what we think is coming, apathy becomes our shield. I'm not even going to engage in that. I have other stuff to pay attention to. And it's really like deep down on the inside.
Mechanism.
I am so disgusted and I am so afraid and I am so overwhelmed with negativity from the truth that I do know is out there that I don't even want to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
That's what it really is. And it's a survival mechanism, but don't make it your identity or stop making it your identity. That's just how I am. I don't pay attention to those things. I don't believe in that. I don't, it's not your identity. It's a survival reflex that you can, with practice, time, and awareness, heal from so that you can start to rebuild that courage, which is, again, the spiritual core of true care. To disconnect from apathy, stop judging yourself for it. Instead, say, and then Cynthia, would you mind?
This numbness was trying to protect me, but now I choose something deeper. I like that. I like that a lot.
This right here, this is my favorite AI picture in all of these slides. This is
dope. It's real dope.
This picture encompasses what our responsibilities are moving forward. So once we understand what true care really is, once we start living the truth, this is our sacred order of responsibility. So it starts off with learning deeply and thoroughly the principles of natural law, which is the foundation of true freedom and peace. And again, peace doesn't mean just internally as a new age, like if I'm at peace, then the world's at peace. No, that's not true. Right? But peace as in what we can strive to achieve as a human family. Not perfection, but relative peace. Yes. Right? Right now, we have slavery and chaos and anger and sadness. Yes. If you really look around, that's what we kind of have, collectively speaking. Yeah. And of course, a lot of Americans, we're quite privileged, even though not a whole lot of us are even anymore. But we kind of try not to, through apathy, acknowledge the truth about really like almost everywhere.
It's surrounding us, literally surrounding us.
Literally surrounding us. And then even, Chicago and Detroit and it ain't all sunshine and rainbows.
I'm from Milwaukee, so that's a baby Chicago. You don't have to tell me. You see tons of sunshine.
But learn deeply and thoroughly. So not just the surface. Don't learn the terms only, right? Learn what it's like to live by the principles of natural law. Okay, do no harm, but take no shit. Assimilate that knowledge. And stop doing actions. This is the part people like to ignore. This is the part where ignorance comes in. Stop doing actions and habits and taking agreements that interfere with truth or perpetuate darkness in the human family, right? Stop engaging in the dogma of religion, the dogma of scientism, the dogma of politics, the dogma of the New Age movement, right? If you glean real value from it, then yes, shine that value out, but don't engage in habits that, and again, religion, the word religion goes beyond just the faith systems. You got there's a whole religion around giving your children over to the state so that the state can raise your children because that's what makes you a responsible parent. there's a whole, it's not true, but that's a religion. There's a whole religion around convenience for food, right? It started out with like the breakfast propaganda and the microwave and all these things. And now there's, the whole fast food and all these things. There's religions out there. Read my book and you'll get a full context of this. I don't want to go too much on a tangent, but religion and money. I didn't even mention. Stop your love of money and just start like understanding it, navigating it properly so that you can engage in projects that actually help and you're not just stuck in this debt slave world. So definitely learn how to navigate the system of money, but don't like be just all about money only. Like be about freedom, be about bringing people together for projects that involve getting us more free and more at peace with each other and the world.
Truth
and stopping people from stealing from you and whatnot. Different conversation for a different day. Anyway, I'm just going on so many tangents. Stop actions, habits, and agreements that interfere with truth or perpetuate darkness in the human family. Okay. Once those three things are done, you are living in truth. Okay. And don't stop yourself from living in truth because it's not going to be easy. People are going to absolutely despise you for living in truth. And this doesn't mean you fight all of those battles. Just know that that will be the reality, that you will be isolated, even if you don't isolate yourself. And some people will absolutely despise you deeply just for living in truth and not going with the dogmas of, again, religion, scientism, politics, money, and New Age movement. You not going by those dogmas, you turning your TV off, you understanding natural law, they are going to hate the shit out of you for no reason except for that. But don't stop living in truth. That doesn't mean, again, you fight every battle, but don't stop living in truth. Live it, not as a theory, but as transformation, and then teach your family to do the same. And lastly, publish the truth online. Now, if you're anything like me, if you're anything like Mark Passio himself, if you're anything like Cynthia, if you're anything like most, I'll just, dare I say, most people who find themselves in the freedom movement, complete strangers on the internet woke your ass up. Complete strangers on the internet are the reason you are interested in information that can free humanity from the oppressors.
Yep.
Not your family, not your parents, not your teachers at school or professors at college, not your boss, not your employee who works under you. No, strangers who have never met you and will never meet you woke you up, and they were on the internet. Why is it not very simple to know that eventually you might want to go ahead and do your part and add something to the internet? You can't just abdicate, as Mark Passio likes to say, that responsibility to the rest of us. No, we have way too small of a voice in the freedom to even make a drop in the pond. Our pebble is so small, it's not breaking the water surface molecules. It's just like bouncing off. We're not making a drop in the pond yet. Yeah. Our voice is too small. So publish the truth in some way, shape, or form. You don't have to do it presentation style. You can find your own style, but publish the truth somehow, some way, not only about the systems that enslave us, but also the systems, practices, and principles that restore and strengthen us. What makes us stronger. And as a strategy buff, as a buff to the strategy, target the children. When you target the children, you restore the future. You target the children because the children grow up to be the adults. And not only that, but the children grow up to be the so-called elected officials. The children grow up to be the so-called experts. The children grow up to be the so-called authorities.
You
Okay.
just sparked the idea in my mind. I want to write a kid's book about natural law. You just like sparked that in my mind because you're right. The children are extremely important to understand these concepts, to grow up with them, with these concepts being normal instead of the degenerate concepts of current society being what's normal.
If you and here's the thing, right? Children play video games. Develop video games where the story arc of the main character, okay, gets stronger by way of living the truth. Has enemies pop up that are more obviously archetypes of the oppressors that really exist in the real world behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Right? Have them go fight Anthony Fauci.
All day long.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
develop video games that are around natural law or something. You know, something, whatever. Just the point is,
Get that Bill Gates on there.
yeah.
Video game.
Go, you know, have a boss fight where you're stopping the Rockefeller family from taking over the United States education system.
Yes.
Right?
I love it.
I digress. Target the children and you restore the future. Open schools, build youth-based initiatives, teach true morality, true care, and true discovery. How to think. Not what to think, not what to find, not what to prove, how to think, how to discover, true discovery. It's not about the money. It's about the benefit to the human family, everything. My biggest example is the roads, because the roads are such a clear, I hope I really drove that home for you guys today, because that is just so clear when you think about it. But it's roads, it's buildings, it's, like I said, it's the functionality of grocery stores and mom and pop shops. It's the functionality of certain technologies like pens and pencils, right? Like, these things are not easy to produce in such large numbers and quantities, but they add such value and they give so many opportunities to children, right, and young adults and young people and even old people to create things that without pens and pencils, without roads, without buildings, it just would be impossible. It would take way too much time, and we don't have that much time. We're too old. We get old real fast.
Yeah.
So it's not about money. It's about the benefit of the human family. And I am a huge fan of The Matrix. Okay, I have seen the first Matrix movie probably 20 times in my life.
I love that movie too.
When I watch the movie with my wife, I have to stop myself from voice acting the entire movie. Right? If she's listening, when we open for questions, tell them how I am about the Matrix, especially the first movie. I know it front to back. Okay. And it had a point. There's a Morpheus quote in there where Morpheus is talking to Neo. Neo asks him, he apologizes to Neo. He said, I have to tell you that I'm sorry. I apologize. Neo's like, for what? He says, we never free a mind after it's reached a certain age. Mind has trouble letting go. And if you don't understand the significance of this line in this movie, it doesn't mean that once you've reached a certain age, you don't deserve truth because you've committed, atrocities or something like that. It means that once you've decided to take on the identity, of an obedient tax slave, for instance, there's a whole bunch of obedient people, but obedient tax slave covers a lot of people. Okay, once you've made that your identity and you live that as if it's truth year after year and decade after decade, then, and they get you on that identity when you're still a child. Make no mistake, before you turn 18, you decide to be an obedient slave of some kind. Okay, and you think it's your own choice that you're making, but of course they've coaxed that in there through school and a whole bunch of stuff, drugs and all types of stuff. Regardless, the mind has trouble letting go of what you decide is your identity, and because that's true, you want to aim to teach, at least if you're aiming for large amounts of people, the children, because adults are programmed, but children are programmable, right? Children are programmable. So you program them with truth, again, morality, care, true discovery, right? True science as a method of truth seeking. You program them with wonder, right? What a wonderful opportunity it is to be here in a human body with a human mind and all of this unquantifiable potential that you have and that your mind has, and opportunity that you have, unquantifiable, infinite upon infinite, right? Infinities of opportunities and potential that you have just from being human. Fill them with wonder and program them with courage.
Yes.
Take no shit, right? Don't go overboard and don't go overkill, but take no shit. Not even from mommy and daddy. If it's shit.
Yeah.
If it's actual shit.
Yeah.
Take none of it. Because, while you can't win every battle, you can build courage. And if you do that with enough children, then, well, the adults are going to die. We out of here. Okay? Right. And we'll have a brave new world. Thank you all so very much. I feel like this was super cool. Please visit, Linktree, the Ufulu Child Linktree, so you can see. It's the link to get my book is on there, and we have some products on there. My wife runs a whole holistic health coaching thing that you can see on there. This has been True Care for the great work by yours truly, and I really appreciate you guys.
Masterfully done, sir. I loved it. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Did anyone have any questions, comments? That was, I know that was a lot to take in, but that was deep. That went hard.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Any questions, comments?
No, there's definitely some. I see some people on here that I'm sure, comments, questions, anything. You say anything. Say anything.
Oh man. Okay. Oh well. Gratitude for the presentation on True Care. Yes. I feel like there was just so much that you covered, and the principles that are sticking in my mind that I feel that needs to be really grounded into my own life and walk even more, even though I'm already on this journey of holistic freedom and in embodying true care. I feel like you mentioned the importance of reaching the children and really doing so in a way that they're equipped with their own compass that is in alignment already with universal law, with the principles of that actually lead us to freedom, that involve love and understanding and order and harmony and true freedom. And so, you talked about the money system as well, of course, and how we don't need to depend on it in terms of our daily activities, and that, I mean, we are indeed conditioned to lean on it as a kind of like we're so dependent on it that it's almost like a visceral reaction to think of a world without it. at times. So thank you for bringing that up, because this is like a collective shadow work that the world is in and that we are needing to do in order to really have the courage and the confidence to design our lives as we so choose, in accordance with health and freedom and true care. So thank you, babe. And yes, you know the Matrix movie very well.
Yeah, if there was a movie out there I knew too well, seen too many times,
That was it, huh?
it'd be that one.
And shout out to Michal and my mom for being on here, and mom, that's really amazing. And I see you, Steve, holding it down. So,
yes, hello,
yeah.
y'all.
What up?
Hey, so can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so have you thought about so you brought up the magic wand where no currency exists, right? So have you tried experimenting, actually trying to not use currency in your life right now, and then seeing what you actually have available of true care in your life, and what holes need to be filled?
I love your question.
That's
I love
a great
your question. So there are some very limited. Hold on. Can't have that. Can't have that. There we go. There are some very limited capacities available to me that I've been able to find right now in my life where I could do some of the things that I enjoy doing and that allow me to engage in the projects that I want to engage in without using any currency, but not in any real way right now. And and this brings me to why I love your question so much. I don't even have a beef with the use and the continued use of money, because I don't think the solution to our real problem, which I define as ignorance, is money or money systems. I don't think the existence of money itself, also to add on to that, means the existence of a freedom differential between those three classes of people that I named in the beginning. I think the problem is solved when the internal environment is aligned with truth, objective morality, and true care. When we internally have ascended beyond our identities as obedient slaves to our current masters, and we do, whether we acknowledge it or not, have masters currently as a human family. Okay. When that changes and we are no longer identifying and acting on behalf of being obedient slaves to these masters, that's when the problem gets solved. And so if that gets solved and money systems are still a part of how we engage in projects, so be it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the blanket existence of bookkeeping and using a medium like paper or something, whatever, to represent said bookkeeping. But, right now, with all of the religions that are at play and all of the sickness that's at play, and mental sickness as well as physical sickness, and all of the propaganda that's at play and has been at play and here's the thing, Michal and all of the listeners out there, the games have been at play for thousands of years. Okay, the mastery over the human mind by the current oppressors have been passed down and taught to future generations for thousands of years. Okay, this is not a simple mind control trick that they play on everybody. It's extremely intricate, and it's extreme. The only advantage that we have is that it's not based in truth. It's based in a falsehood, which is I can play the God of this world. And that'll never be true. And so since that'll never be true, we have some advantage in the fact that we can align ourselves with truth that doesn't have to be defined in words. And we can move on the power of truth, which truth has its own engine. Truth has its own power to it. Right. And so that gives us an advantage. But as far as like the physical manifestation of how they enact their power and how they have all of us under mind control, this is thousands of years of perfecting this. And I mean thousands of years of documented perfection. There's even more thousands of years of we don't have those documents. Regardless, a little bit of a tangent there. The existence of the money itself isn't the problem. And therefore, I don't try and focus all of my energy on how many things can I do without using money or without advertising that it may lead somebody else to getting money or making money. I put my time into how can we upgrade our internal environment, meaning our mind and our heart, to generate true care to where we are learning the truth about history, about science, about these things, and about the dark occult rulers of the world, so that we can change the real, do something about the real problem, which is our lack of morality.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I know I went on like 3 tangents, but
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. That makes sense. And I love what y'all do with your music because, you know, in my opinion, it's gonna be music, art, you know, all of the arts that are what change our minds and our hearts, right?
absolutely.
Yes. My little girl still sing your song all the time. Get up, get up.
Give them hugs
Everybody
and kisses for
move.
me.
Yes, yes, yes.
I would like to also make a comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Basically, I love the idea that you're taking the time to do this podcast on care with capital C. Because you also said that is care is based on action. It's okay to feel like you care for something, but it's when you take the actions around it, and to take those actions, you say that you need courage. So to me, that is ultimately important, the courage piece, because when we're looking at the systems around us that are enslaving us, one of the things that we look at is that they're set up to create fear. And that encourage, like you said, is basically making sure that even though you may fear something, you move through it. You take the action, the care, to make sure that you can actually actuate the caring that is needed. So it made me think of, because I had a biblical mindset once upon a time, of the Tower of Babel, where basically that's a story where all the people of the world were building a tower to heaven. And that tower to heaven was something that God did not want to happen. So he created making sure that the people could not talk to themselves, division, to stop the tower from being built. But for them to do that, that took action.
Yep.
And caring, because they wanted to go to heaven too. I understand that. Now, I'm not a biblically minded person, so I'm going to take it in another swing. So it also says to me that action is also a part of the care that you're talking about. But what we don't realize today is that you have more power than you think you do.
Yep.
And I appreciate this conversation because it brings to mind that you can take tiny steps that can lead to larger steps. Okay.
Yes. Thank you for those comments. That was very insightful, and I'm so glad you found value in this presentation. It was masterful, so very masterful presentation. It was thorough, and I enjoyed it so much. Were there? I'm going to try to round this out. We're going on 2 hours, but did anyone else have any?
Are we okay?
Any other comments or questions? I don't want to scare anyone away from it when I put it on YouTube. So I try to keep it under 2 hours, but this was powerful. Anyone else? No? Okay. Well, I want to thank you all for joining tonight. I want to thank you again, Soul. This will be up soon on my website and on YouTube, and I'll have a link, all his links for the book, for their podcast, their link tree, all of that good stuff. Yes, the book is powerful. Definitely get it. There's a link to it on my resources page on the affirmlifedaily.com website. So again, I appreciate your support. Your support, I cannot continue this effort without support. So please like, follow, share. Continue to engage others in about natural law, about truth, about freedom, because this is a collective effort. We all have to get involved. We all need to take action, just like he talked about, action, and have the courage to do so, even in the face of dissenters, of people not wanting to, deal with you anymore, people talking bad about you, whatever. Have courage in the face of all those challenges, because this work is that important. So, in that note, infinite grace, love, and gratitude to you all. Thank you so much, Soul. Thank you so much, everyone who joined us tonight. And, have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Until next time.